Hello and welcome to the Breaking Ground show on iPropertyRadio with myself, Carol Tallon, the show where we chat to industry experts to get a view on what's happening on the ground and to learn about new trends emerging within the construction industry. The show is brought to you in partnership with Place Engage, a data-driven platform for more successful public consultation and community engagement for your next development project. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Ben Norton, founder of Grade My Trade.ie. Ben, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Carol. Thank you for having me on the show.
So Ben, Grade My Trade. People might be familiar with Grade My Teacher, Grade My School, Grade My Professor, and this was kind of a phenomenon about a decade ago that definitely received mixed welcomes. So tell us a little bit about your platform.
It did. Well, Grade My Trade, I suppose, when I came up with the idea, was specific to the construction industry. So any tradesperson or sort of service in that area, it was to create a platform for them to promote themselves and to capture I suppose, the word of mouth feedback that Ireland would be quite synonymous with the industry, and just giving these businesses a platform to capture that feedback and to promote themselves online and to say to customers, look, we're experienced tradespeople here, come, let's discuss your projects.
That's really interesting because I think previously these types of platforms were seen a little bit almost like a gotcha, as in something that would trip up the industry. So it's interesting to hear you position it as something that's essentially a platform for the good operators across the industry to really promote themselves. And, we know from our own work within Property District, across digital platforms, building trust, particularly digitally and online, is just so important that actually social proof is huge. So we encourage people to try use things like Google reviews, but not everybody wants to engage. Not all of your consumers and customers want to engage in that. So are you seeing the start of maybe building up a bit of social proof for tradespeople?
I am. So, I suppose to answer your first part of the question was how I positioned the GradeMyTrade.ie, and it was more so I wanted it to be a directory website, quite quick for customers to just type in what they're looking for, and basically they get a list of the relevant tradespeople that they've searched for. So other platforms, for better or worse, tended to ask for details from you, submit your job, and they would give you the leads, as opposed to what I am doing, which is basically switching that for the customer, basically. So the customer can see all the registered people that we have that are fully insured, and they can contact all of them for quotes quite quickly, and then they can compare, and basically then they're just choosing what suits maybe their budget or their timeline, for example.
Very
Um,
good. Well, let's take us through some of the trades because actually I think it's a great idea to have, and I think this is a great service because we work in the digital space, and most of our clients would have really good websites and great social media presence. But actually, through the podcast we're consistently reaching out and engaging with individuals, so people involved in the supply chain that actually don't even have their own website. Some might have a Facebook page, but actually most of them survive through word of mouth
yeah,
and actually still advertising in print and in local newspapers. So, sometimes there's a tendency for me to almost move ahead and think that everybody has this huge online presence, whereas actually we know that's not the reality. And by the way, it doesn't suit everybody. Not everybody wants it. However, I think maybe the interesting thing about Google and Google reviews is that actually you need to be searchable on Google. So even if
correct.
it's just that you're coming up in a trade directory or something, you need to be searchable. And the other thing is actually people, consumers, your customers who've used your service, whether you like it or not, whether you invite it or not, have the option to review the service that they've received through you or your company. So from that point of view, actually, it's really important that we are putting our best foot forward and giving opportunities for happy customers to have their say, because otherwise we know what happens, and that is just disgruntled customers might
Yeah.
have their say. So, Ben, talk us through the trades that you have on the platform currently.
We have everybody from architects and builders to plumbers, electricians, security companies. There's an air conditioning company going to be coming on board over the weekend. Everybody basically. And I've just been trying to focus, I suppose, in County Wicklow and County Dublin at the moment, because I would have been born and raised in Dublin, but living in Wicklow now with my family. So it's trying to get, I suppose, my local community up and running, in County Wicklow, and then looking to expand then into all the counties nationwide.
So, in order for the platform to have robustness and credibility, you need to have good operators on there. So, what kind of mechanisms do you have in place to make sure that the people you're engaging are good, trustworthy tradespeople?
Well, first and foremost, it would be their public liability insurance. So that's just step one out the gate. If you don't have public liability insurance, you're not on the website. Secondly, some trades have qualifications, others don't. So, for example, if you were looking for an electrician, they'd have to be registered with Safe Electric, for example. Or if you wanted your gas fire installed, you'd have to make sure that your plumber is a registered gas installer. The same if you want your house wrapped. Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland, they have to be a member. So we verify them qualifications also, and then we verify ID and we solo check the businesses, and verify their addresses as well. So
Very good. And so, say for builders, are you looking for people who might be registered under the series scheme?
we would be, yeah, and also it's also the CIF have a membership directory as well. But I've found that they tend to be the kind of larger companies, so it would be more Siri, yes. And the
Very good.
IHBA, the Irish Home Builders, also have a directory that I would use to contact tradespeople.
Very good. When did the platform launch, Ben?
It launched a soft launch in, what are we now, 24, at the end of 22. And by soft launch, I mean I wasn't advertising it to the public. My goal at that stage was basically to contact the tradesmen and get the tradesmen online, find those early adopters. Like you said, were the ones that generally had their Instagram profiles or were getting Google reviews. So we got them on board first, and then sort of word of mouth spread. Everybody had one or two colleagues that they recommended to me, and I'd touch base with them, and they'd come on board, and then it sort of snowballed. So.
I have to ask, just looking at the environment we're in at the moment, when there's such a shortage of tradespeople and you've got customers and clients with projects that they really, it struggle to find somebody, or they have to wait quite a while. Do you have any mechanism, or has it been an issue maybe to add some level of robustness around checking the clients or the consumer side of it? Is there any level of protection, say, for the trade when they're contacted, or is it simply a case that anybody who's interested can just go on and get the information?
Well, anybody interested can get the information. It's open, but say, for example, you're looking for a plumber, and you try call him now at what time are we? 20 past 12. He might be on the tools. You might not get him. So there's a callback request form that you can fill out with basically just some very brief details: your name, number, your air code, and a little description of the job if you feel like sending it on, and you can click send. So that will go to the tradesperson, and then they sign into their profile at the end of the day, and they'll see their requests, and then they can contact the customer sort of at a time that suits them in the evening.
That's very good. And Ben, what drove you to do this? What's your own background?
Well, my a civil engineer, I suppose, by trade, and the idea came to me when I was on a project for my previous company, Ardmac. They do clean room environments, data centers, and labs and things, but they also have a fit outside of the business that specializes in offices and hotels, for example. And back in, I think it was 2018, I was on the clean room side of the business. We'd just finished the project in Blanchardstown, and I was asked to sort of close out a snag list with a colleague of mine, Daniel Kavanagh, for a client we had on the fit out side of the business. So myself and Daniel went in, and we were in the process of closing out the snags. We just realised like we'd been quite unlucky. We had one of the major snags was to do with a carpenter, a carpentry company. They had, I don't know if you're familiar with fire safety, but basically there's fire compartments in buildings, and the hinges on the doors, you need to have intermittent packers basically to maintain the integrity of your fire envelope. Well, they had run out of them, and they'd started using plastic spacers behind hinges. And one of the snags was they'd actually only two fixings, two screws in the hinges, so you could see that they needed more screws. But behind that, there was these packers, so that led to then every door in the place coming off and being checked. And that same day, we had a plumbing company in doing pressure testing, and so the pressure test had to go on for a few hours overnight, and I didn't finish, I think, till 2 or 3 in the morning that day. And at the time, this was for a client in opposite the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre, and I was living in Corktown, so I was driving home at 3 o'clock in the morning, giving out to myself about my quantity surveyor, wondering where did he find these people, and is there thoughts started flowing, then is there a place, because like that, even in the commercial side of the industry, you have 1 or 2 or 3 guys that you're familiar with, that you do work with, but when they're busy, you tend to go to agencies, for example, and agencies can be great, but they're hit and miss. You can get really good guys, you can get guys that might not be up to the standard you're looking for. And that evening, driving home, the thought kind of came to me, like, is there a platform? So I went home with the thought still going, and straight onto the internet, and I seen what was there, and I thought, well, maybe this idea that I have might change things, and let's run with it and see how we go. So I did.
That's really interesting, because then what that's telling me is that actually you were part of the industry trying to solve what is essentially a B2B problem in terms of quality across the supply chain, and yet the solution you've delivered is very much kind of a B2C. It's very much geared towards the consumer. So has that been, was that a deliberate choice?
It was more when I thought while the problem is similar in the commercial and domestic, I thought maybe I could have a bigger impact on helping domestic customers with the same issue, and maybe in future, if Grade My Trade has, say, a significant number of tradesmen, then that I could help them in future with subcontractor paperwork if they wanted to go to the commercial side, because my directory would almost sort of validate some of them questions that they'd have to answer, for commercial customers as well. So I suppose that there's a B2B between myself and the tradespeople, and then the B2C, obviously, with the platform and the customer. So
very good. Yeah. And because it occurs to me that actually the problem you've hit on there is actually one around, verifying and in where necessary, upskilling the supply chain. And that's a very real problem, and actually growing the supply chain, because what we're seeing is really good contractors winning business maybe outside of their immediate geographical area. And so the first thing they need to do is build their supply chain, and that's easier said than done. And there's always a process of almost embedding the supply chain that needs to happen. So when you take a long-term approach, you're generally looking to bring in companies that can grow with the ambitions of the contracting company. That they're on a track that, okay, well, if we get 6 more jobs, this company can potentially scale. And look, the maturity of our supply chain is definitely something that has been, it has been identified as a challenge across the construction industry, and we can see it improving. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I think, maybe one of the great examples of this has been the introduction of the sustainability, the sustainability supply chain school, because I think that's a really good initiative. It's basically allowing the larger contractors to upskill and bring their supply chain along with them. And you can see the real benefits for it. So it's interesting that you've geared more towards the consumer side, but when you can see that actually this is a big problem for the industry and you might be really well placed to solve that problem for the industry.
Perhaps, yeah. And some of the businesses have said that to me, especially the air conditioning company that's about to join Grade My Trade. I think that's one industry in particular where there's maybe one or two main contractors, and then all the subcontractors in that are basically subbed into them. And like you said, they're struggling to grow themselves, and so the larger contractors have like 7 or 8 smaller contractors, as opposed to sort of medium sized perhaps contractors that can grow with them on projects.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, it's interesting. Watch this space. I suppose the other side of it is, again, we kind of started out with the name being somewhat contentious because you know what you're describing there in terms of a directory and a platform, really for the trade to be able to promote what it is that they do. That's something that was really needed, for Ireland, and it's great for consumers to be able to benefit from it. But the grading element, let's talk about that because that's something that must make your tradespeople a little bit nervous.
Actually, the nervous, like it comes up a lot, but when I explain it to them, then they're actually quite happy to. And I haven't actually had anyone touch wood so far when I explain the process that we have say, actually, no, it's not for me. Best of luck.
Yeah.
But we can talk about that if you like.
Yeah, please do, because it just I feel like the name might actually generate some initial resistance from tradespeople who actually want to promote the work that they're doing or that they're looking to expand their own operations, so they need to be taking on new business, but just might be a little bit nervous about it. So yeah, please talk us through that.
Well, there's basically a 3-step process for when you leave a review. So if you want to leave a review, say for Katie, who's plumbing, for example, you'd leave a review, and there's 4 metrics basically: reliability and timekeeping, courtesy, build quality, and tidiness. So there'd be the 4 metrics, and then you fill out your information. If you are not happy with work you've got done, and you say leave a negative review, which is anything less than a 7 out of 10 on our rating, it gets flagged to admin in the site, so it doesn't go live. So we pick that up at the back end. Then myself, for example, I'll contact you and say, Carol, I see you've had work done by Katie here. Do you want to tell me a little bit about it? You're not happy. And then with your permission, I'll listen to your side, and I'll then speak to Katie and say, Katie, listen, Carol's not happy with this job. So Katie has 3 options then. Katie can say, okay, fair enough, I'll go back, rectify the problem. And then Carol agrees to leave a new review as opposed to the old one. So you can say, Carol, she came out, wasn't happy with this, came out fair play for, fixed it, no free of charge or whatever the situation was. The second possible choice that the tradesperson would have is that they can leave a response to your review underneath. So again, that would be not edited, but like the language and all, we'd make sure that it's fit for it's we don't want it to be like a platform where you can say whatever you want, like you have to be kind of clear and concise basically with the 2 answers. And then the third I suppose third option is that Katie decides not to do anything at all, in which case after 21 days your review will go live on the site.
Okay. Yeah, no, and that's a fair process. Can you tell us how that's working in practice? By the way, what kind of traction are you getting? How many tradespeople do you have on the site?
We have over 60 now, and there's about 40 in that are off the site, but just have to get back to me with their updated insurance details. So they only last 12 months, and then it automatically removes you from the site. So I'm in the process of following them up. So I'd say 80 people, 80 businesses across Wicklow and Dublin.
Yeah, that's really good actually, that you have a process whereby people don't just sit on the site so they can't trade, that actually
Correct,
they need to show that they are keeping their qualifications and their certifications up to date. So that's a really positive one there. And in terms of consumers, and by the way, is it mainly consumers or is the industry using this as well?
It's mainly consumers at the moment, Carol. Yeah, I haven't advertised or gone out even to any of my contacts in
Mm.
the industry yet. I want to make sure that it's on a firm footing and we're doing the business for domestic customers and that the tradesmen are happy with the workflows coming in before I maybe mention commercial sides and aspects of things for them, you know.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And can you maybe, I presume you've had at this point, you've had to engage your process there where maybe a negative review came in and was contested by the tradesperson. Have you had that experience yet?
Did I had one
Okay.
instance, and it was a couple that had hired a security contractor to put an alarm for them on their house. So the the tradesman, I don't want to give names. The
No,
tradesman
please don't. Please don't.
arrived, and the husband was at home, the wife was at work. He carried out the job. Everything seemed to go fine. He left, and then there was a review came in that evening. So I contacted the person. I spoke to the wife who had said to me that he'd left holes in the walls, and that there was he needed to finish painting. So straight away, I knew the company. I was like, this guy isn't a painter and decorator. So I was saying to myself, so I listened to the lady's side. I
Yeah.
contacted the tradesman. Then I said, listen, you're after getting a negative review. He said, what are they saying? I said, well, listen, you've left holes in the wall and it's not painted. And he said, right, well, what actually happened was that he'd taken down the old unit for them in the utility room, and behind that unit, the wall wasn't painted. And obviously,
Right.
when he'd taken it off the wall, there was holes in the wall.
Yeah.
He put up his new unit on another wall in the utility room, so you could see where the old one was, not
Yeah.
painted holes in it. So what turned out to happen was he actually went back. He took his unit off, put it back where the old unit was, and he got the testers, the paint testers you can pick up
Hmm.
for free in Woodies or B&Q.
Yeah.
Picked up one of them. He patched up the holes from where he had put his unit initially, touched them up with paint, and then left the sample for the guys to just go around because his unit was a little bit smaller, so you could still see. And so that was the solution there. And what
Yeah.
actually happened was that the couple didn't actually leave a review for him in the end then. So
They withdrew it. And
they
yeah,
were,
my first thought on that particular situation is it a security company's job to
it's
do
not, no,
painting? Right. Well,
it's
if they
not.
were
So,
clients of ours, we would have said get the communication right
yeah,
and don't go back and paint because that's not your job.
yeah,
So okay, that's an interesting one. And tell me, do people ever leave positive? Well, or do people are they leaving positive reviews?
they do leave positive reviews. Yeah, they do.
Right. And so what kind of things then, is there a level of detail that would be helpful maybe? So say, for example, somebody across Wicklow or Dublin, they're building a house or doing some renovations or something. Is there enough level of detail there to say, oh, this person could maybe do what we need?
Well, they'd in their own profile, they'd have outlined the services they provide.
Mm.
So straight away, you'd get a clear picture whether this guy could potentially do it for the job for you or not. And then, based on the reviews, some people's reviews are one or two lines. Other people tell a story, literally. And I've actually had to reduce the amount of characters that we have because some people were just leaving such effusive reviews that, like,
Yeah,
if you opened the review up
yeah.
on the phone, you'd be scrolling and scrolling. So we get a mix of both.
Yeah. Well, nobody minds when that's the good news. Okay, so tell me what's next? What's next for the platform? Is there any kind of new innovations that you're working on or new features that you're looking to deliver?
Well, we're constantly, I suppose, updating the site. So even before we soft launched last year, I'd completely changed the layout of the site. So when you look at a contractor profile now, you can just scroll. It's one page basically with all the information. We had originally multiple pages with different sections for your gallery and the qualifications they have. So we're just constantly trying to streamline it. We've also added in analytics now at the back end. So when the tradesman signs in, every month he can see how many people have actually clicked on my phone number to ring me, or because what I was finding was I wasn't able to capture that information from them and actually say, unless somebody left a review or a callback request for them, I couldn't track the traffic bases that they were getting. So that's new.
Very good.
And yeah, just we're constantly trying to improve the percentage, because we review the reviews as well. So when you leave a review for somebody, you leave your name, email, and number, and we aim to be over 80% of verifying reviews also, so it's not your friend, or you know what I mean.
Yeah,
and you can quickly pick that up when I'm on the phone call. I know straight away whether somebody's got the
a
job done.
genuine one.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think I think that's really important actually for the validity and for the credibility of the site as well, because the reality is, and look, my day job is spent on the reputation side, and this is definitely an industry that people don't have a difficulty in slagging off, in denigrating, in it comes under fire for criticism that sometimes is very unfair criticism. So like, even for example, the one you used there about the security company, I would say that's not the security's job. So actually, but anyway, I appreciate that they went out and they wanted to make it better. But
it was actually the customer was quite local to the guy, so it's like, I don't mind, but
yeah. No, but actually, in one way, this touches on something that we've talked about quite regularly on the show, and that is actually, since the crash over the past kind of decade and a half or more, this industry doesn't seem to be able to advocate for itself. So actually, the industry doesn't seem to be able to stand up and be proud of the work that it does, and to defend the work that it does, and actually to defend the service that it provides and how critical that is. So, that's outside of your platform. I think the construction industry in general needs to become a much, much, much better and stronger advocate for itself, because delivering the built environment touches off the lives of absolutely every citizen and visitor to Ireland. And yet it comes under some pretty unfair criticism. So we'd love to see we would love to see a platform that actually, where people, when they do a good job, are really rewarded and recognized for doing a good job, because I think that's the vast majority of people in the industry. I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning and decides, okay, I'm going to go out and half-ass my day through through my work today. I don't think that's ever the intention. So look, it would be great to see that. I suppose finally, Ben, just in terms of the business model, then, do the trades pay to showcase their services on the platform?
They do. So at the moment, because I'm building it up, I'm giving it to them free for a year, so they can try it out and see if it's for them. But there'll be a yearly subscription, so it'll be €299, and that's for the year. So I don't take any percentage of any jobs or fees agreed between customers or the tradespeople. What they earn is theirs to keep. They just pay a yearly subscription. And
very good. And I suppose finally then, is this a service that is free for consumers?
It is 100%. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So look, that's great. Again, providing a platform for people who are doing a good job to be able to showcase what it is that they do. So best of luck to you with the platform there, and I look forward to watching how the build and everything progresses, and hopefully you'll be progressing outside of the Dublin Wicklow region shortly. Is that the plan?
That is the plan. It is, yeah.
Very good. Listen, thank you so much, Ben. That was Ben Norton, founder of Grade My Trade.ie. Thanks to show producer Katie Tallon and to the production team at Hear Me Roar Media on Sound. Also, my thanks to Place Engage for making these conversations possible. And thank you indeed for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next episode of Breaking Ground. In the meantime, please be sure to check out all of the other Irish and international real estate and construction shows here on iPropertyRadio.com.